All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. Probably should have the recklessly early predictions here this week, but I kind of forgot that was a thing until like yesterday, and it was already too late at that point. So we're gonna do that next week. This week we've got some headlines for you. It's just another off-season episode of Unqualified Analysis, and as always, hey, I'm your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the social medias at CalebVUA. Follow the show, like the show, rate the show, subscribe to the show. Just do all the stuff that helps us grow this thing, and I'll be a happy boy. Outside of that, not a whole lot to this episode today. There's just some headlines. I'll probably see how much I can juice that orange as we go along here. But hey, we'll just see as we get into this thing. Any hoozles, let me just, I already got a drink there. I've just kind of procrastinated for a little bit on getting this thing started. So we'll just get right into this thing. And there's a couple that I think I can expound on here a little bit and kind of, get you some insight on this, at the very least from the confines of my brain. Easy for me to say. Any hoozles, let's just get into the headlines. So first, we'll just start with a quick one here. There was some wrangling about, whether George Kittle's deal would get done before the season. I think it was pretty clear that this wasn't going to be like holding the team hostage situation like Nick Bosa did a couple years ago, holding out. Different situation. That was his rookie deal. You do anything that you need to do, young man, to go ahead and get as much money as you possibly can, because there's no guarantees that you're going to, get into that third contract and still be just the same player that you were before. So you get as much money as you can on that first contract, and then you go from there. Nothing to say about that. George Kittle's was a little bit different. He'd already gotten a contract extension before, so he's got some money to fall back on. He could afford to kind of, in good faith, come into the facility and kind of work on this thing and get it done. And ultimately, despite what he may have misled on social media, $18 million a year, I do believe that makes him the number one paid tight end in the entire league. So there you go. Or is it 19 million a year? I think you got $76 million, $40 million of that guaranteed. So, I mean, if that breaks out or breaks down to first 2 years guaranteed and then a team option for the third year, and all 40 of that guarantee is in the first 2 years, that's pretty good. Pretty good. That'd be $20 million a year. I don't know how it's structured. Obviously, I didn't get that deep into it, but pretty good stuff for George Kittle there. No notes. I think not guaranteeing that full contract is probably a good move from the team perspective, because he has sustained a lot of injuries and he plays a very physical play style that's going to make his body degrade faster than, a Travis Kelce might. Like, I think by the end of this deal, might have the best days behind George Kittle. I mean, Lord willing, that doesn't happen, but just based on his play style and the amount of miles he already has and the injuries that he sustained, it's probably more safe to assume that his best days are going to be behind him by the time this deal is done than to assume the opposite. He's getting up there, but good deal for George Kittle, good deal for the Niners. They don't really have like anybody. So, I mean, you could make an argument that trading George Kittle like they've done with every other good player outside of Brandon Ayuk this offseason might have been the move in this situation if you're just going to go full rebuild, but he's a good culture guy to have in there as well. So don't hate the signing. Don't hate the signing one bit. We'll see what tight end gets the next raise coming up here. Brock Bowers is going to get paid stupid money on the end of that rookie contract. He's still got 2 more seasons before we even think about that, because he was already the best tight end in the league as a rookie last year, and they've still got him for 2 more years in that rookie deal at the very least before they hit him with an extension, which it would behoove them to hit him with an extension as soon as they possibly can. It's only going to get more expensive the longer that they wait on that. They got 2 more years of salary control, and he's going to get paid. I mean, it's easily going to be over $20 million. He might be approaching the 25 range by that point. That might be a little bit excessive, but we're talking 2 years down the line. There's no telling what's going to happen between now and then. And he is, again, the best tight end in the entire league already after 1 season. So that's fun to think about, but not something that we're going to be worrying about for quite some time. So we'll keep it moving from there. Other extension news, the Vikings extended Andrew Van Ginkel for 1 year's $23 million. Again, it's like the Texans do this as well. Just a hilarious, like, don't want to set the precedent of fully guaranteeing a contract sort of deal there. So it's basically 22.4 million of that 23 million is fully guaranteed. Just 600,000 in incentives, be it roster bonuses or, performance incentives. I don't know how they structured it. Basically, 22.5 million of that 23 million is guaranteed. So it's essentially fully guaranteed. Obviously, that little asterisk is like a large degree higher than my yearly salary. So I'd love for that rounding error at the end, that $600,000 rounding error at the end to be on my paycheck. Such is life. Such is life, though, man. I mean, I'm not a professional athlete, so these things are to be expected. Love this move, though. He was like really fringe defensive player of the year conversation. He got very close when it was all said and done to being in that discussion. I mean, if he one-hand intercepts, pick sixes in that Detroit game, like you may remember, he batted down a pass that he almost intercepted and took to the house. We might be having a different conversation about this whole thing. If he'd have taken that back to the house, he might have been like on the doorstep of being the defensive player of the year, and he might have won the whole damn thing when it was all said and done. But that's Andrew Van Ginkel and that Brian Flores defense, better than I could have ever expected. And really, I think better than anyone could have ever expected. That's why he's getting this pay raise after year one of the contract. And that's a guy that's probably only going to get more expensive. So I love that. I love that dearly. And that's a guy that deserved it. So I'm glad we got him for another 2 more years. Very expensive third year, but it's all guaranteed. I truly don't care. I believe in rewarding players that deserve to be rewarded, and that's kind of what the Vikings do all the time. That's what quality organizations do all the time, by the way. Man, I hope the Vikings win a Super Bowl so I can say I have a quality organization I root for that's actually won something in life, which I can't say that yet. But I digress on that front. You're just looking in my mind right now. But next one up here is we are kind of burning through these headlines, man. This might be a real short episode. The NFL handed out a $100,000 fine to Jeff Ulbrich, the now defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, and a $250,000 fine to the Atlanta Falcons team for failing to prevent the disclosure of personal information. I believe that's a direct quote for the reasoning for the fine. This obviously stems from the Shedeur Sanders prank call, among several others throughout the night. No word on whether those prank calls are related or not. I don't want to make any assumptions because obviously those kids, we talked about this last week about my views on society and how this whole situation reflects what society has become nowadays. There's certainly a possibility that other prank calls were due to different people. I honestly find that hard to believe unless it's like friends prank calling him, which is certainly a possibility. But in this situation, it feels like Jax Ulbrich, man. More than anything, I mean, the Atlanta Falcons getting, a $250,000 fine, that's chump change. That's less than the veteran minimum for a yearly salary there. Some people were saying that they should have been Doc draft picks. No. Like, I hated this whole situation, but let's not clutch our pearls and then hit the guy with a book. I mean, there's no reason to do that. That's incredibly punitive, and it's not a great precedent to set going forward, because this probably will happen again, especially with players. The real crux of this was that it was not the agent whose number that the teams got. It was the player himself, because Shedeur Sanders is represented by himself. He doesn't have an agent, which is more common nowadays than it used to be. Players are more business savvy than they were, or more confident than they were, probably a mixture of the two. I'm not discounting. I mean, the resources are out there. I mean, the beauty of the internet is, well, it's the beauty and the curse of the internet is that you can learn anything you want. And I mean anything, whether that information is good or not, you can log that information in your head. So what that means from a business perspective is players have resources that they've never had before to go ahead and represent themselves. And you've seen guys like Laramie Tunsil, obviously an assassin at the negotiating table. He has, I believe he reps himself. I feel like he's one of those Mulugeta clients. I could be wrong. I think he has like a lawyer that kind of makes sure the contract is on the up and up. And this is kind of what I'm kind of delineating here, but that's kind of the point of this episode with so few headlines. That's kind of what Dana White recommends, and say what you will about the guy. become a billionaire by accident. Even if you are given a tremendous amount of luck, which, let's face it, every single billionaire is given a tremendous amount of luck in some way, shape, or form to get to that point. But it also takes savvy, and it takes a tenacious work ethic. And obviously, when you're business savvy, you can give out this kind of advice. And what Dana White generally says is that all you really need, if you know what you're doing in a negotiating room, all you really need is a lawyer to make sure the contract is on the up and up. And if you can hold your own at the negotiating table, you can save on those agent fees. There's obvious downsides to that, but you can save on those agent fees. But back to how this relates to Shedeur Sanders, he reps himself, so he gives out his personal numbers. No one else. There's no intermediary. There's no agent to field any bullshit sort of calls. The prank calls that would have gone to like a Drew Rosenhaus are going straight to Shedeur Sanders at this point. That's an element of this situation that I think it was Bomani Jones that brought it up. And credit where it's due there. It's not something I'd thought about, but worth revisiting in this situation. But that's part of this story, and it's obviously the situation sucks. It should never happen. It speaks to how click-driven, because the video was posted, by the way, by this dipshit 21-year-old son of a defensive coordinator, Jax Ulbrich. I think he's going to... sometimes you learn a lesson a peaceful and easy way, and other times you learn a lesson the hard way. And Jax Ulbrich is learning a lesson the hard way in life, in that you don't need to post everything, and sometimes clout chasing gets you in a really bad situation, and I don't care if you really learned anything about society, as long as the effect is such that he doesn't do dumb shit like this anymore. But hey, at the same time, man, I could not fathom living in that house where you just cost your dad $100,000. And Jeff Ulbrich, don't get me wrong, he's been a coordinator for a long time. He's probably been earning solid money, good money, by like regular person standards, like, working class or, upper middle class, like you and me listening out there. By those standards, Jeff Ulbrich makes a lot of money, and he's made a lot of money over the last several seasons being a defensive coordinator, like a senior assistant. You're making in the six figures in a lot of those circumstances. $100,000 though. Now we're not talking about a player that's making, a quarterback money, like $40 million a year. We're not talking about Kirk Cousins here. Even if we were, though, $100,000 is $100,000, and $100,000 is a whole lot more for Jeff Ulbrich than it is for the head coach in this situation, Raheem Morris. But $100,000 is $100,000, man. And I don't know what's like. Listen, man, all behind closed doors, you hope everyone follows the laws and statutes in place. That being said, Jax Ulbrich is a grown adult, and I would not be shocked at all if it was one of those situations where Jeff just got them, he knows a guy who owns a gym who would be more than willing to give them one free night of like a jiu-jitsu class, like a Muay Thai class, and they're not really doing any Muay Thai. Jeff Ulbrich is just getting in there, or even better, a boxing class. Jeff Ulbrich has got hands. I mean, if as a defensive coordinator, I just assume you have hands, because that's the ethos of a defensive coordinator, quite frankly. I just assume Jeff Ulbrich has called Jackson with a friendly yet firm suggestion to show up at this free complimentary Muay Thai class or boxing class. It's just going to be them. They've got the gym for the night. And Jeff Ulbrich is going to make his son go 5 long rounds. We're not going to make him go 13. We're not trying to give the kid brain damage. But as an adult, and I think he probably understands in this situation that he's earned it. I think at this point, the entire internet has let him know that he fucked up in a big time way. But actions have consequences, and I feel like all is right in the household when Jeff Ulbrich gets to legally kick his son's ass. Like, there's obviously someone there to make sure it doesn't go too far, but behavior like this deserves an ass whooping in some way, shape, or form. And not just behavior like this that costs $100,000. And the ass whooping is not the only penance that Jax Ulbrich is going to have to pay. I'll leave the rest of it up to Jeff Ulbrich and co. I would say some sort of you don't want to call it indentured servitude necessarily, but I feel like he's going to be doing a lot of free work to pay back the debt that he owes to his father. That frankly, never going to get repaid, even if the money is recouped. And I don't think the money is ever going to be totally recouped. But that kid's going to have to work in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's, I don't know, you put him in like the worst bullshit role in an organization where he has no chance of advancement whatsoever, not from that position at least, and you're just putting him in the mailroom doing the worst shit possible. Maybe he's cleaning shitters at the stadium there, Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta. I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to leave it up to Jeff Ulbrich and the household over there to kind of sort it in-house. But also people were saying like the NFL should have punished Jax Ulbrich, and what do you want the NFL to do? I guess ban him from events. That would make sense, I suppose. But I mean, outside of that, like, what do you want to do to this kid? What do you want to do? What do you want the NFL to just show up to his door and knock on his door like the Gestapo? Easy for me to say, like the Gestapo, or the secret police or something like that. Knock on his door, beat the shit out of him, and then keep it going. Do you want him to just like show up and read off his crimes and then summarily execute him? I don't want that to happen. Like, what do you want the NFL to do in this situation? It's just not a kid, a 21-year-old man being an absolute dipshit. Like, frankly, we all are at 21. To varying degrees, we all are complete dipshits at 21. It's just this guy is an extreme dipshit in a way that I certainly wasn't. I've done some dumb shit. Believe you and me. I had some growing up to do. We all did at 21, and I did some dumb shit at 21. I never did this sort of dumb shit, but I've done some dumb shit at 21. Yeah, I don't know what you want to do to the kid in that circumstance. Again, this settling in-house. I don't need to know what happens. I'm sure at some point down the line, though, I don't know what else is going to be the stipulations for making it right in the household for Jax Ulbrich. I can assure you one thing and one thing alone. There's an ass beating coming somewhere along the line. The boxing gym would be a great setting, but I can assure you, if it hasn't already happened, it's going to happen at some point. Jax Ulbrich is going to get his ass kicked. That's outside of that, let the chips fall where they may. It's frankly not our business, but I can assure you of that one at the very least. Just go look up a picture of Jeff Ulbrich and tell me that's not a guy that'll deliver an ass whooping. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Of course, not felony worthy ass whooping. Let's not get carried away with this, but a certain degree of ass whooping. A couple bruises. I mean, he's an adult. As long as it's two consenting adults, him kind of, acknowledging that he fucked up, I think we can all live with that. But there's no other recourse when you cost your father $100,000, quite frankly. That's just, and by your own stupidity. It's one thing if it's out of your control, but by your own stupidity, actions have consequences. I'll just leave it there. Actions have consequences. So more stuff came out about the Bill Belichick, Jordon Hudson. It's Jordan with an O. Never seen that spelling before, but you know what? I'm not discounting that it's legit. I mean, obviously it is. It's how you spell her name. One thing I not remembered, but I learned over the course of the last week. This is not the first elderly gentleman that Jordon Hudson has dated before in her. I mean, you would assume short career. I mean, she's only 24 years old. And I mean, she met Bill back in what, like 2021, I want to say? Was it 2021 or was it like 2023? I don't know if it necessarily matters. All I know is that she's been dating Bill Belichick for like most of her 20s so far, from what I understand. At the very least, like a majority to like roughly half of her 20s, she's been dating Bill Belichick. So she dated a different old man before that, from what I understand. Now, that might be a total fabrication. I totally acknowledge that. And if that is the case, hand up. My bad. But that's, from my understanding, this is a pattern. She's an old soul, as they say. She's, someone that you can talk to, of course. So outside of that, I also learned startling information that should not surprise anyone knowing the dynamics. Someone's the predator in this situation, right? I mean, it's a 50-year age gap. Someone's got to be the predator. And we all kind of thought that it might be the woman in this situation. In many cases, it is not. Many cases, it is not. In this case, though, Jordon Hudson built a multi-million-dollar real estate empire conveniently after meeting Bill Belichick, and I can only assume that she's using funds either provided by Bill Belichick or Bill Belichick is buying her those properties. But she's amassed like $8-9 million of real estate. It's kind of, there's some contention on to whether I read 8, but I've heard 9. I've heard 10 million, but I think that's probably just shameless exaggeration on that front. But 8 is the firm number that I saw that she's amassed, which either way, staggering wealth for a 24-year-old. And that's like, I don't know if she was dead broke before this relationship, but I can tell you she's had quite a come up off of Bill Belichick Enterprises, which, oh, by the way, I learned she's the COO of that as well. And frankly, guys, I'm just getting uncomfortable with this situation. I was already uncomfortable after the CBS Good Morning interview that went sideways in an even more awkward way than I've ever seen from Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick has derailed some interviews in quite awkward ways, but you had the Bill Belichick side of this where he gets into that Bill Belichick mode where when he's done giving insight, he just shuts down and makes it as awkward as humanly possible and makes you feel small along the way. So you got that going on. And then you got Jordon in the background just hovering off camera. And I don't know. There's conflicting claims from both sides here. So the UNC side, the Jordon side of all this, because it's clear at this point she's got her fingers in every pie in the facility. She's all over the place. I just hope she hasn't infested the football side of things, but she was down on the sidelines during the spring game. By the by on that front, the Jordon side of this whole engagement here was saying that she wasn't a constant presence, she wasn't butting in, yada, 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 all that sort of stuff. CBS, now you can make an argument one way or the other based on your political affiliation. I don't really have time for it for the most part. CBS morning show, they're throwing softballs at you. They're giving you lobs, just letting you kind of go whichever way you want to. You can shut down a question if you want to. You can not shut down a question if you want to. Either way, they're lobbing softballs at you. And this is a point that I heard brought up many, many times. And I'm not the first one to bring it up. I think I may have even brought it up last week. If they're showing her doing it on camera in the final cut, and again, like Bill Belichick said or alluded to, there were like 35 minutes left on like the cutting room floor. There's like an hour-long interview that they kind of, cut down to a bite-sized portion for morning television. The fact that they included that when they could have easily cut it out if it was a one-time thing tells me it was not a one-time thing, and it was happening throughout the interview. I believe CBS on this side of things, because that's not like, they're not a gotcha journalism sort of. Who's going at CBS for fake news on a regular basis? Who's going at CBS for any news on a regular basis? They're just an unnotable news network for the most part. So to just say it's gotcha journalism, no, I think you got yourself in this whole situation. And again, I'm just uncomfortable with the situation at this point because it's so clear at this point from the outside looking in. Whether Jordon acknowledges it or not, she's preying on Bill Belichick for his wealth and milking him for all he's worth. And I don't know if she is willfully ignorant, if she is willfully trying to deceive. Emphasis on trying, because no one is fooled looking at this situation, but trying to deceive people, trying to play the victim to kind of maybe fool someone along the way. It's not fooling anyone right now, but hey, maybe someone's still fooled out there. Or she's just, legitimately in denial. Because, what else can you call this? And look, the age difference is what it is. Like, I'm just uncomfortable. It feels like I'm walking through a minefield when I talk about this situation, which tells me I probably stepped in it at some point during that previous rant about the CBS interview. But wild times, and boy, oh boy, is it feeling more and more like Bill Belichick's not going to last through the season this upcoming year. It's either that. I mean, I'll put it this way. Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson, or both are not going to be in this facility by the time it's all said and done this year, I feel like. Unless Jordon tones it down to a ridiculous degree that she has not shown a capability of doing so far. I have a hard time seeing this go away until it resolves at some point this season. The only thing that can keep this thing from blowing up or bubbling over is if North Carolina reels off like a 9-10 win season this year and contends for a playoff spot. That's the only way that this all quiets down. Because otherwise, if they're losing, hell, if they're even like 6-6 bowl eligible sort of situation, someone's head's going to roll, metaphorically speaking, obviously. It's either going to be Jordon getting kicked to the curb by Bill Belichick, or it's going to be both of them getting expelled from the building and a full purge of the football program after doing a full purge last season, which, hey, let me tell you, North Carolina football, you may have a lot more resources than Mississippi State, but that's the type of shit that can tank your program for a little bit, and you're not too far removed from 2-10 seasons. So I think it would behoove you to, say, remove the cancer from the building, and there's a clear line of demarcation where the cancer starts and stops, and I'll let you kind of read in between the lines on that one. But again, I'm not sure I'm going to talk about this situation again unless something really notable happens, which I really hope it doesn't. But it makes me so uncomfortable. I just got to move on. I just got to move on from there. Let's talk about some, how do I put this? We'll call it bubbling tectonic activity in the college football landscape. But I'm not talking about conference realignment, though that is always, I mean, we're sitting on top of an active volcano as we speak, right? The active volcano is college football as a whole. At some point, this is all going to blow over. The activity is going to cease. It's going to go dormant. I don't think it'll ever go extinct because conference realignment, whether it's 15, 20 years down the road, if it's 40 years down the road, the conferences always realign eventually. But at some point, this will go dormant, and we're going to have a long period where the conferences are stable again. But for right now, we're still in an active situation. That's not what we're talking about, though. I delineated too much on that. We're talking about specifically Michigan. So first and foremost, the first news I heard, anyways, was Santaono, the president of Michigan, a guy that I assumed was going to be there for the foreseeable future. He is stepping down as the university president. I think there's rumors that he may be going to Florida. That might be total horseshit. But I think there's rumors that he may be going to Florida because they're about to hire a new university president. Santaono is leaving Michigan, so interesting timing on that front. I don't know. I've not really heard any news on that one way or the other. But Santaono is stepping down from Michigan as the university president, and he only got there like a year ago and got a pretty big pay bump. So that's an ominous sort of portend there if you're reading the tea leaves. And then in addition to that, they have self-imposed a 2-game suspension on Sharon Moore, which is just basically saying it's an acknowledgement of the Connor. This is all revolving around the Connor Stallions situation. It's connected. The president stuff is connected to the self-imposed suspension here on Sharon Moore for the first 2 games. What this is basically is an acknowledgement. We know that there is more coming. We know the NCAA at some point is going to drop the hammer on them. I think the NCAA is still deciding exactly what they do in that situation, because if they try to drop it too hard, like if they tried to give Michigan the death penalty, it would be the end of the NCAA, because the Michigan's had no bones whatsoever about just saying, no, I don't think we're going to abide by that. I think we're just going to keep on doing exactly what we've been doing, and Larry Ellison's going to bankroll us to do it. At which point, the NCAA, as we know it, would cease to exist because no one else is going to abide by that ruling. They would have just basically, through precedent, just said, you can just kind of ignore what the NCAA does, and it would all crumble from there. So they can't put down the hammer too hard. Otherwise, they're going to completely lose whatever sham they have left. And that's coming eventually. There's a place for the NCAA for non-revenue sports to kind of continue governing those. As far as revenue sports are concerned, that's like specifically like football and basketball. At some point here within the next 10 years, I don't think they're going to be a part of the NCAA anymore. At least on a major, college sports setting, they're not going to be part of the NCAA anymore. Very soon, I would say. But that's how you expedite that process is throwing down the hammer too hard. The NCAA is going to come up with something along the way, though, and this is an acknowledgement of that. Specifically, the Sharon Moore extension is, okay, we're going to suspend Sharon Moore for the 2 easiest games of the schedule here, and we're going to hope that you let us off easy when it's all said and done. Generally does not work, but it's traditionally what programs do when they know that the hammer is on the horizon, and if I don't show some degree of concession that, yes, there was wrongdoing here, the NCAA is going to drop the hammer harder, which, given the previous line there, maybe they just don't have the balls to step up and say, okay, go ahead and do it. Or maybe they have more skeletons in the closet that they don't want the NCAA going after. I'm thinking specifically of the offensive assistant who was en masse hacking into Michigan, or like, I think it's like a national database of like female students getting like their nudes off of their phone. Real fucking weird shit. I mean, that's like an incredible level of computer science know how to get to that situation, or just computer know how to get to that situation, used in the worst fucking way possible. Don't do that. If you have that level of computer knowledge, maybe bone up on your coding and get a computer programming job, or a software developer job, or something like that. That's how you use that and make a shit ton of money. Instead, this guy used it to be a fucking pervert. And I don't know, they're not connected to the Connor Stallions thing, but it speaks to a culture that was above winning. It was winning above all else, let me just say. And that goes for coaches, maybe it goes for players. I don't know. All I think is that we're just kind of scratching the surface on possible accusations to be levied at Michigan, and maybe this acknowledgement here from Michigan is like, okay, we don't want to make this messier than we have to, because we know there's more that you could throw out there that, in theory, a show of good faith would prevent such a thing from happening. And that's all conspiratorial. That's the funnest part about this story, is that everything is so conspiratorial. You don't know what's going on because it's the NCAA and it's Michigan, and neither of them want to give up any information because both of them, well, the NCAA is the NCAA. They don't ever say shit about fuck, and everyone hates them for that. Michigan's like, if I say anything, I am in trouble. I choose to say nothing, and I choose to stand on a bold-faced lie. If I say anything else, I am in trouble. So that might be where we're coming from in this situation. But I think Santa Ono is out of there for a big part, because he was a party to the situation. Listen, it's like, what's the word? It's like the Bane meme from Dark Knight. They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. Honestly, Sharon Moore got the suspension. Santa Ono got the boot. I think they made their choice, and I think it's the choice that most universities would make. I mean, for a first-year head coach, that's pretty crazy. Or a one-year experienced head coach, that's pretty crazy. But they did just lose Jim Harbaugh, and they do need continuity. Otherwise, reference the previous conversation about North Carolina, things could go a little bit dicey for you for a good stretch of time. Again, not everyone is as resource deficient at the major college football level as Mississippi State, but make no mistake about it. What happened to Mississippi State last year can happen to just about any program below a certain level. Now, I'm not talking the high-level contenders here, but I'm telling you, I mean, every team below the top-level contenders is capable of a 2-10 season. Look at Florida State last year. Everyone is capable of it, outside of, like, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. And even Alabama's had their trials and tribulations over the years. I just think they've built that structure up to a point where as long as they continue to have continuity and continue to make good hires, nothing's going to change there. Outside of that, every single team in this country is capable of a 2-10 season somewhere along the line. And it usually happens when you have massive turnover or you hire a dog shit head coach, which I don't think that description fits Sharon Moore. But at the same time, you put yourself in a bad situation if you let him go. So you roll with him. You roll with them, and you fire the university president. You can hire a new university president. There's a bunch of power-hungry PhDs out there that are more than willing to step into that role, I would imagine, especially at Michigan. But not so many head coaches, and the attrition would be catastrophic at this rate and at this time of the calendar. So I get that. I think I've wrung just about as much juice as I can squeeze out of that story. But this story's not over, by the way. NCAA's still got an ongoing investigation. This is just a show of good faith, and it's a show that something is coming down the pipe from the NCAA, which I think we all kind of assumed. But I think this shows that probably not throughout the course of the season, but next offseason, I think I would expect something coming down from the NCAA about this particular Connor Stalions case. So we'll stay tuned until then. That's a classic offseason headline, something that I probably wouldn't hit during the regular season, but here we are, man. And we're already almost 40 minutes in, so we're making good time. And it's a good time to hit you with the last headline here. And you know what? We'll probably keep this brief. It'll be a pretty quick episode today, all things considered. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think as long as it's above like 40 minutes, I think we can all let bygones be bygones on that. Easy for me to say. I am having trouble talking. But in the least surprising news of the offseason so far, Justin Tucker was cut by the Ravens. I mentioned briefly in the draft recap that the Ravens did draft a place kicker, which is, if you're unaware how the dynamics work, generally, if you're bringing in competition, you sign an undrafted free agent. Excuse me. And even if you're looking for a new kicker, in a lot of situations, you're not wasting a draft pick on a kicker. If you I don't want to say waste. If you use a draft pick on a kicker or a punter for that matter, if you use a draft pick on a specialist, that's a pretty strong signal to the incumbent that you are no longer in the future plans, which that was even coming into this whole thing. I think the number of accusers for Justin Tucker in the massage parlor nasty man 2.0 situation, it's up to like 16 at this point. In the Tony Busby lawsuit, I believe it was Tony Busby. That's a guy that always finds himself in those situations. I feel like that guy's a slime ball, but that's besides the point. That does not speak to the validity of the case. Good lawyers pick up cases that they think that they can win. That's kind of what I'll say there. Or good attorneys, rather. My apologies. I should know the difference by now. He got to this point because he's a good attorney, but I do also think you get to that point because you're a little bit of a scumbag. You do kind of chase these stories to a certain extent, I believe. There's a little bit of ego that goes along with that, but that's by the by. Either way, Justin Tucker, there's enough of those accusers out there that much like Deshaun Watson, it's like, you're going to have a tough time getting a job here going forward. And you are not what people believed at the time when Deshaun Watson was traded to be a franchise quarterback or a franchise player in general, and you came off of your worst season in your entire career. I don't think Justin Tucker is going to suit up for another team again. Maybe if someone gets super desperate, maybe that's a little bit jumping the gun. I'll put it this way. I'm like 70-30 thinking that Justin Tucker is never going to play in the NFL again. Maybe if he settles this thing, maybe, because, I mean, they're not criminal charges. It's a lawsuit hanging over his head. But even if he settles these things, he's not, I don't think, I mean, especially the play has not helped. And obviously the back-to-back double Achilles injury on the same Achilles is pretty much guaranteeing that it's probably a good thing for Deshaun Watson that he got that $230 million fully guaranteed contract, because that's the last contract he's going to get. Maybe period, unless he moves to Riyadh, starts shilling for the Saudis. I don't know. I mean, he's spent a lot of time over there, gone to Dubai, the whole oil kingdom tour over there, I believe he's taken. Hey, when in doubt, when you got a moral scandal, you know the oil kingdoms will just turn a blind eye. That's not a statement necessarily on the oil kingdoms, because they do deserve respect, because they've built quite a large and what's the word I'm looking for? It's an understated empire that is one of the wealthiest and most powerful behind the scenes. If you want to talk about a possible Illuminati, talk about the people that own all of the oil and are not caliphates, because they're not religious. Sorry, that's offensive. That's on me. Not a caliphate, but like a kingship, a dynasty, if you will. They're run by kings, essentially. In those situations like that, I mean, they deserve respect. But at the same time, the Saudis, UAE, Qatar, you name it, in that region, any of those oil kingdoms, usually they're turning a blind eye to a lot of stuff, because that's kind of how they roll. It's like the way the oil kingdoms operate is like, look, man. We're not that far from dismembering Jamal Khashoggi. I can never go to Saudi Arabia after that little soundbite there. But hey, we're like a decade off of dismembering Jamal Khashoggi in an embassy in Turkey. So I mean, like, who are we to judge? Come on in there, fella. If you got the money, come on in. We like rich people here. We just kind of leave the other stuff to the side. So Deshaun Watson, if that's the way you want to go, that's you could pick worse places to go at the end of the day. And of course, I do not condone any of that. I'm just thinking from a pragmatic perspective. Listen, this guy, I wouldn't be shocked if he moved to Saudi Arabia. Maybe he converts to Islam somewhere along the way and changes his name accordingly, like Muhammad Ali before. People forget that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was Lou Alcindor. Maybe we see a reawakening from our friend. Well, not our friend at all, Deshaun Watson. After all this, and he, goes off to live as an oil baron in the Middle East. Who's to say? As long as I never hear from him again after he's no longer on a football team, that's really all that matters to me. But yeah, Justin Tucker, that's how I got on all of that. Weird episode today. A lot of hot sound bites. I think I've towed the line pretty well. Feel free to let me know. If not, I'll be free to apologize. But yeah, Justin Tucker, good riddance to you. I don't think he plays on an NFL roster again. Do we think we covered it all? I think that's a good place to cut it off. Hey, that's all, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis this week. This is a bit of an unhinged one, but this was a fun episode. You can't lie. My brain got spindling here, and I came up with some good stuff along the way, so I got to pat myself right on the back there. And that's all you can do sometimes. If you can't pat yourself on the back, sometimes no one will. So it's worth a pat on the back every once in a while, as long as you did a good job. And I think I did. Call it a 6 to 8 out of 10, somewhere in that range. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I'd probably fall more on a 6. But if you want to throw it up more towards an 8, that's your prerogative, I suppose. Anyways, I'm just rambling in circles at this point. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. Again, you can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. Subscribe, rate, share with a friend, all that sort of good stuff. Like, follow, whatever the apparatus or the mechanism is on your chosen listening platform or viewing platform. YouTube, by the way, go ahead and watch if you haven't already. Just go ahead and help me grow this thing a little bit. Outside of that, we do this thing once a week, every Tuesday going forward. I promise you, I'm going to have the recklessly early predictions, as is tradition, next week. And I'm just going to leave you off on that. Thank you all once again so much. And as always, I've got no clue what I am talking about. One thing I learned this past week: Let me just pick this up real quick. This was actually, yeah, the previous week, so it all counts. Tyler Shuck, now famously of the Saints, probably overdrafted in the second round, but hey, if you play well, it doesn't really matter. Besides the point here, Tyler Shuck, rather, and everyone's going to go through that journey. I already went through it myself on pronouncing that guy's name. But Tyler Shuck is officially the last player born in the 20th century to be drafted, which, hey, end of an era, folks. I remember when RG3 was the first player born in the 2000s to be drafted, and now we're here. That doesn't sound right. No, he was the first player born in the 1990s to be drafted. My mistake. Wow. That's really my mistake. As it was coming out of my mouth, I found out that was not true. But yeah, I remember when RG3 was the first one born in the 90s to be drafted. Now I'm remembering Tyler Shuck is the last one in the 90s to be drafted. That might be an all-time trivia that I've just got in the holster right there. I mean, pub trivia, I'm trying to get back into it here. I'm scoping out spots. I need to get back into it. It's been way too long since I went to do a good pub trivia. But besides the point here, that's one you should keep in the back pocket just in case. RG3, first player born in the 90s to be drafted. What's the one? Tyler Shuck, last one born in the 90s to be drafted. That is assuming that someone with, like, in their 8th year of eligibility, still in college, doesn't have an insane season, which we'll see. But as of right now, Tyler Shuck is the last one. And if it stays this way, end of an era. But if not, I am going to keep track of who the last one is, if there is one drafted next year, just so I have that trivia in my back pocket. I didn't realize that until right this second, but that's a good one. Also, kind of delineated on that, but the real point here, he's also 3 months younger than Justin Jefferson, who is notably entering his 6th season in the NFL. Just wild. Wild how long these quarterbacks are staying. The COVID years of eligibility, I think they're all basically up at this point. I think like 2026 is the last one where we're going to be dealing with that. So it's like next year, pretty much that's going to be the last. Hopefully, knock on wood. I hate players staying in college for 7 fucking years. But there we go. We might be towards the end of an era. At that point, or with that point, I got to stop talking. I'm going to go edit this thing. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And yeah, goodbye. See you next Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the good weather. We're in May now, boys. It's time to savor this. You have a good one. Bye.